Let's talk about, well, talking. We all do it every single day. But how many of us feel like we're really good at it? For some advice that feels surprisingly fresh and modern, we're going to rewind the clock by about 400 years. You know the feeling, right? In this age of texting, endless scrolling, and just kind of shouting at each other online, it can really feel like the art of a good face-to-face conversation is fading. We talk past each other, we fight for the spotlight, and sometimes you walk away from a chat feeling more tired than you did before. Sound familiar? So, who do we turn to for help? Well, our guide for this little journey comes from a pretty unexpected source, Sir Francis Bacon's 1625 essay of Discourse. Yep, that's right. A philosopher who was hanging out during Shakespeare's time is about to give us a masterclass in having a great conversation today. Okay, first things first. Before you even open your mouth, Bacon says you have to ask yourself a fundamental question. What is my goal here? Am I trying to show off how clever I am, or am I actually trying to figure out what's true? So Bacon lays out these two very different paths. On one side, you've got the person who's all about the commendation of wit. This is the debater, the person who needs to win every point, who wants to sound super smart, who's always thinking about what might be said to score a point. But on the other side, you have the person who is seeking judgment in truth. Their goal isn't winning, it's understanding. They're trying to figure out what's real, what should be thought. So the real question is, are you there to put on a show? Or are you there to actually connect and learn something? And here's the proof, right from the source. In his original text, Bacon writes, "Some in their discourse desire rather commendation of wit than of judgment in discerning what is true." It is absolutely wild how these words, written centuries ago, perfectly nail a problem we see all over the internet every single day. Okay, so you've set your intention, you're here for truth, not just to sound smart. Fantastic. But what about the conversation itself? How do you keep it from being, well, a total snooze fest? This brings us to Bacon's next big piece of advice. Bacon basically gives us a recipe for a good chat. He says a lively discussion needs to be a mix of all these different things. You need some serious arguments and logical reasons, sure, but you also need to sprinkle in personal stories and opinions. You've got to ask good questions, but you also have to know when to lighten the mood with a joke or two. It's the mixing of all these parts that keeps a conversation from going stale. And here's Bacon's warning straight up. He says if you don't mix it up, you become tiresome. He uses this great old word, to jade, which basically means to completely wear someone out, to exhaust them. If you're the person who only tells long-winded stories, or only asks questions, or only cracks jokes, you will jade everyone you talk to. You'll become a bore. Now, out of all those ingredients in his conversational recipe, Bacon puts a special spotlight on one in particular, the question. But he has a very specific idea about how we should use them. It's not about grilling someone, it's about empowering them. See, asking questions is brilliant because it does a few things at once. First, obviously, you learn something, but Bacon's genius tip is to apply his questions to the skill of the persons whom he asketh. In other words, ask people about the things they're good at. Let the mechanic talk about engines, let the baker talk about bread. This gives them the pleasure of sharing their expertise while you get to soak up all that knowledge. It's a total win-win. But, and there's always a but, with this great power comes a warning. Bacon tells us to look out for a certain kind of conversational villain he calls the poser. So what's a poser? A poser is someone whose questions are troublesome. They're not asking because they're curious. They're asking to trap you, to test you, to show off how much they know by finding a little crack in your knowledge. Come on, we've all met this person. They're the ones who ask those gotcha questions. Bacon's advice is simple. Don't be that person. This leads us right into another one of Bacon's core ideas. A conversation is not a monologue. It's a team sport. And he uses this absolutely perfect metaphor to explain it. For Bacon, a great conversation is like a dance. So, who has the most important role? Well, Bacon says the most honorable part isn't being the flashiest dancer on the floor. It's being the one who leads the dance. That means you're the one who introduces a topic. You start the music, you give the occasion. And then, crucially, you step back, you moderate, and you pass it on to someone else. You invite others to join in. And he really hammers this metaphor home. He says if someone is just dominating the conversation, talking and talking, you should find a way to bring other people in. He compares it to musicians, bringing in a new dancer to replace one who has danced too long galliards. And a galliard was this really fast, energetic, exhausting dance. The message couldn't be clearer. Don't be the person who hogs the dance floor until everyone else is too tired to even watch. All right, so we've learned to aim for truth, to mix up our talking points, to ask genuine questions, and to share the conversational dance floor. But Bacon saves his most profound, his most powerful piece of advice for the very end. This is what he thinks is the absolute peak of communication skill. Just let that one sink in for a second. Discretion, knowing what to say, when to say it, and maybe most importantly, what not to say, is more valuable than eloquence, which is just the ability to speak beautifully. In a world that seems to reward the loudest, most confident voice in the room, Bacon says, no, the real power is in thoughtful restraint. And this breakdown just captures the difference so perfectly. Eloquence is about giving a great speech, like a powerful horse running hard in a straight line. But discretion is totally different. It's the good reply or the second speech. It's quick, it's adaptive, and I just love Bacon's final metaphor for it. Discretion is like a greyhound, which is nimblest in the turn. It's not about raw forward power. It's about the incredible agility to respond perfectly to the twists and turns of a real live conversation. So as we wrap this up, I'll leave you with this thought from Bacon's 400-year-old guide. In our world of constant noise, hot takes, and endless commentary where everyone is trying so hard to be eloquent, maybe the greatest skill we can possibly develop is discretion. Maybe the most powerful move you can make in any conversation isn't what you say, but what you wisely choose to hold back.